All right, this is the first episode of my podcast, Noble Warrior, and I have my dear friend Yinting with me. And the intention of this podcast is to discuss what it means to be healthy masculine. I believe that this is such a missing in our society today, and as a student of personal and professional development, I want to inquire about what it means to be a healthy masculine man in our modern days today. So welcome, Yinting. Thanks for being my first guest.
Thank you. I'm using. Can I use this episode for my podcast?
Yeah, of
also?
course.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
It'll just be this is awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. So, let's just have a conversation about what it means to be a healthy masculine. I just got back from Burning Man.
Oh man, I really want to hear your stories.
I mean, there's definitely a lot of stories to share, but when it comes to what's relevant to healthy masculine, and this is actually the thing that inspired me to really make this podcast, believe it or not. So there we were on the playa of the desert, as far as I can see, hundreds of different artworks all over the place, and we saw this huge warrior statue, about 5-story tall, roughly speaking.
Wow.
And obviously I was very curious, and I said, hey, let's go over there and check it out. And the artist was there. He was still putting it up. Turns out he is Mongolian, and he said the inspiration of his artwork is that the playa has everything. Has great food, great art, a lot of different interesting interactivities that people have, but what's missing on the playa is Mongolian's warrior spirit. So that's why he brought it, and that's his contribution to the playa. And so I thought that was amazing. That was great. And then so throughout the time that I was there, I stopped by the Mongol warrior, the warrior spirit, quite a few times. I brought my shamanic drum, and I was watching people paying respect to the statue. Various types of people, rich people, not so rich people, etc. And it occurred to me that the playa is a metaphor for our society today. And there's a lot of interesting, cool things happening, but there isn't a symbol, at least one that I am aware of, that really focus on the warrior spirit. What it means to be a masculine man, warrior spirit, and I think that's a worthy discussion to talk about. So throughout my time at Burning Man, I interacted with a lot of my heroes. I don't want to name their names, but I interacted with a lot of them, and we initiated a conversation about, hey, what do you think is healthy masculine? And then I asked them about their communities, I asked them about how they maintain their internal alignment, and a lot of them actually don't have a very solid answer for me. So nonetheless, so here we are. This is the reason why I believe this conversation is so worthwhile, so we can inquire together what it means to be healthy masculine.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So what do you think? What do you think is healthy and unhealthy? What is the spectrum of healthy and unhealthy masculine? Actually, before you start, I also want to share a tool that I came across when I was on the playa. So a tool is to think about a 2x2 quadrant. You have the x-axis, healthy, unhealthy and healthy masculine, and then unhealthy and healthy feminine. And I believe we have the yin and the yang within all of us. So each of us have both, feminine and masculine within us, right? So the question is then, how do we align ourselves internally so we can be on the healthy side of both masculine and feminine?
So let me ask you this question regarding your tools. So if you have the X and Y, and where they intersect, what is that?
That's groundedness. That's everything is in alignment.
I see.
Yeah.
And for a person, or for a relationship, or for
Yeah, it's a good question. So for me would be, everything to me is fractal, right? Confucius said self-mastery, family, nation, and world. And more and more I realize the wisdom behind that phrase. It is everything. It starts with yourself, then expands, it ripples out accordingly. So it applies to first and foremost myself internally, then family unit, company, nation, world.
I totally agree with you on that.
Right.
And on that spectrum, like on what Confucius said, it's also true that yes, we have to develop ourselves before we can raise a family and then go to the society and country. But I think it's also when you are on a personal level, if you can hold a big enough context that will care about the country and the society, it will further help oneself to develop himself.
Sure. Right.
I thought that was a good point.
Yeah. So on that note, the way I interpret that in my mind is there's a duality between our environment and ourselves. We change our environment changes us. So there's always, it's not one way or the other way. It's very much a dual relationship, for sure.
So, okay. I'm not sure how to use the tool.
Well, sure.
And it's a really interesting question. The way I look at it, because healthy masculinity is very specific, right? It's almost a place you want to be. It's something you want to achieve, right? Like one might want to achieve. I want to have healthy masculinity. So it sounds very specific, but on the other hand, it is totally not measurable, right? You can say, okay, if you achieve this and you have how much of this and how much of that, then that is healthy masculinity. So the way I approach this thing is, how in Lao Tzu's Tao Te Ching, right? And he said, Tao is if you can talk about Tao, the way, and it is not the way.
Sure.
Right? If you can name something and it's not gonna be that.
Sure.
Right? Because it's something that's gonna be constantly moving. So he actually spent a lot of time to talk about what Tao is not, right? The way. What is not the way? Because it's almost impossible. Because it's so out there. It's in the air. Like you can be. There are different properties of masculinity, right? And if you have too much of something and it's not balanced, right? And then you're out of balance. So let me check in with you first. What do you think are the properties of masculinity? I remember I looked into the dictionary one time for a definition, but I forgot. Yeah, it's basically says masculine is like manliness,
right?
But what is manliness? Then you look for manliness, and it's masculine properties.
Right.
So again, it's not. It's a concept. It's not a thing that you can grasp on.
Right. It's very meta. It's a metaphysical phenomenon.
Yes.
Sure.
Yes.
So the way I interpret it is, I'll start off by saying masculine property is completion, is stillness, is death, is intentionality, it's directionality, it's taking action.
It's a Zoom recorder. We're doing a podcast, so no problem. Have a good day.
And vice versa. Feminine property would be flow, would be creativity, would be volatility, would be things that change, something that gives life, right? So aliveness versus death, things like that. And yeah, that would be sort of the extent of the duality, the polarity of what masculine and feminine to me. And obviously a very limited expression of it, not a comprehensive one. But.
Right. Yeah, it's not easy to talk about masculinity, right? And now we're talking about healthy masculinity. But for masculinity, what I think it is being unemotional, strength, violence, and assertiveness. That's what I'm thinking about.
Sure.
So, and any of those properties can be good and bad if you have too much or too little of it, right? Like say
right.
Being unemotional, it can be a good thing. Say my child is crying over me not letting him do something, and I don't let my decision or my principles to be moved by his emotion. Right? So I don't get emotional with him. If he tests me, if he knows that he shouldn't do something and he still does it right in front of me, knowing that he's challenging the authorities, and I don't get emotional about it, I just still be with him and be his father. Or he's really sad and I let his emotion move me a little bit and become empathetic with where he is and let him know, hey, this is normal, you're only 2 and you're just sad, you're just frustrated, you're just angry, right? And that usually will calm him down right away, right? Not right away, but a lot faster than some of my friends' kid would, there's a different version of parenting guidelines floating around, and some still believe you shouldn't encourage a child's emotion. You should block it. You should disencourage it when you can. So say a child is crying, he's throwing a tantrum, he's just on the floor waving his hand and little feet and crying in tears. Some of my friends believe it is best to not encourage that by leaving them alone, right? And from what I see, that can go on for 10-15 minutes and eventually they'll stop, right? But they stop because they kind of gave up, right? They're just like, okay, no one's gonna take care of this part of me at this point, so there's no need of me keep going with this. But my approach, I being observed. I'm not saying my way is the best way, but I being observing that when I do that with my son, he calmed down a lot quicker, and he become more empathetic towards other people. Like he would, he can feel what other people are feeling, right? So going back to my point is okay, let's say we're not being emotional, but let's say that is a masculine property, right? We can totally go overboard with that. I don't feel anything, and basically that's being a sociopath,
right?
Right. But being a sociopath can be very masculine.
Sure.
Right? He's not afraid of, that person might not be afraid of what other people think of him. He's not, he feels no pain. He feels no emotion. He didn't feel hurt. Right? That can be a good qualities of a good leader, a warrior. Right? But if he only has that might be not enough. Then it can turn into something else.
Right.
So the balance is in between. Totally emotional and totally emotionless.
Mm-hmm.
Where we need to be, that's tricky. I think it comes with life experience. It comes with, say, I feel this anger, but what do I do with it? Mm-hmm. I know a lot of men with a lot of anger, but it never show or never comes to the world in a damaging way. They use it for their own advantage to propel forward in this world to compete, but they don't let it come out in a damaging way. Or they use that as a tool to understand other men's suffering and help other men, right? So and that's very masculine. They don't let that anger control them, and they're master of it. So I was listening to this man. His name is Nick. I forgot his last name, but he was wrongfully convicted of murdering in his 20s. When he was 20, he was a drug addict, so he was doing stupid things and got himself into a very bad situation, and he got thrown into those maximum security prison. And in prison, it's very masculine, right? It's violence, is life and death, it's survival. But I would say there's a lot of I really don't like the term toxic masculine in there, but because it is all masculine. It is what you do with it. It's like money. You can use money to do good things, and you can use money to do bad things, right? Like there's no toxic money. It's really how
the intention behind it, sure.
Right? So it's the intention behind it. So I think it's all just masculinity, but how do you I don't know. I'm thinking it's being masculine. It's not good or bad. It's just it is what it is.
Yeah. And that actually is the nature of this podcast, right? Because a lot of people hear masculine or feminine, they automatically go to gender, right? And I think that's a pretty good shortcut. Sure, men tend to be a little bit more masculine, have more masculine expressions. But like I said in the very beginning of this conversation, I believe that we have both feminine expressions and masculine expressions. By the fact that we are alive, things that's moving in us.
Right.
There's femininity. Right? We are alive. Things are moving. We're creative. We're giving birth. We're giving birth to ideas to something. We're taking action along the way, right? We're connecting as human beings to one another. We have emotions. Yes. These are all feminine expressions, right? So, and I think the nature of this conversation is not good or bad about masculinity. That's not what I'm discussing at all. The nature of the conversation is how do you align, right? Find that internal compass to the healthy and unhealthy expression. I don't like to use the word toxic, because toxicity implies that there's something wrong, right? And I don't want to use that. From my perspective, it's about well-being. It's about being healthy. So what's a healthy expression of masculinity? What's a healthy expression of femininity? What's an unhealthy expression? And truthfully speaking, the only person that would know what's healthy or unhealthy is oneself. Yes. I can't externally say, hey, Yinting, you have an unhealthy expression. Like, who am I to tell you, how your expression is healthy or unhealthy? The only person that ultimately would know this is behind closed doors when no one's watching, whether or not you have a healthy or unhealthy expression of who you are and what you stand for.
Yes.
So that's the nature of this conversation, and it is definitely difficult because it's internal. It's not something I can point to and say, hey, you have 100 units of masculinity expression. That's, it's very internal. It's very much about self-awareness, right? And it's about what's working and what's not working within you.
So who do you like? Let's say, do you have like a role model for that you think that demonstrate healthy masculinity?
I don't have a singular role model per se. I look at human beings in general and pick and choose, what I like, and actually what I respect. This person's achievement, but more than underneath achievement, more than external achievement. It could be, MVP of, Kobe Bryant as an example, right? I have a lot of respect for that guy, right? Not because of his ability to achieve certain scores. More importantly, I was so impressed when I learned that he wakes up at 4 o'clock every day, day in and day out, and the intensity of his practice, and just the amount of sheer work that he put in to hone his own craft at the sacrifice of his other aspect of his life, whether it be relationship or friendship or hobbies or whatever. His singular focus was basketball.
Yes.
I have a lot of respect for that guy, right? So, and the long answer to your question, I don't have a single person that I point to and say, yeah, he is an example of masculinity for me.
What I hear is discipline.
A huge part is discipline,
for
sure.
I think a huge part is definitely discipline.
Yeah.
That just came to me.
Yeah.
That all the men I admire are fucking disciplined. Like, they, wake up and they do the things they need to do on a daily basis, repeatedly, to big or small, but they are all very disciplined.
Yeah.
And I definitely think that being disciplined is part of being masculine.
Okay.
Right, like Kobe Bryant, right? Wake up super early, work out day in, day out. They really don't have a day off, right? You don't really see him, posting like party pictures and too much. I mean, he does party, he have fun, but he does what he needs to first, right? Like one man I really admire, Jocko Willink, is the Navy SEAL. He wakes up every day before 4:35 or something, and that's all he does. He posts on Instagram, like his watch,
Right.
Like 4:32 today he woke up, 4:31, 4:29, you know, and I think that's one way he found out a way to use social media to hold himself accountable and also to inspire his fans. You know, I mean, how boring is that? I mean, just he posts that every day, no matter where he is. He might be, you know, maybe yesterday he was in California and today he's in New York. He still wakes up at before 4:35, even though it is 1:35 in California, right? Yeah. He still wakes up, and
that's actually one tactical thing that we could all do. Whatever it is, you know, whether it be going to the gym or waking up or making the bed or kiss our wife or whatever it may be, whatever the discipline that we pick, it's a very, very tactical thing.
Mm-hmm.
Post whatever it is, whatever discipline that you say you are about, do that over and over, and really ultimately he's doing it for himself.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, he's not doing it to impress everyone else. He's doing it for himself. And then that's also the mindset I started taking on. A lot of people think whatever I posted on the social web is you know, a way to brand myself. Believe it or not, whatever I posted is mostly for me, so that I remember. There's a reminder to myself not to forget a certain commitment that I have for myself.
Totally.
Yeah.
But you know, I really like your post, and sometimes I don't like it or whatever. It doesn't matter. You know, I think it is part. You know, and there's a reason you put it on Facebook. You know, and I think it is part of finding your voice. The way I look at it, you're maybe not intentionally, but you're finding your voice and you're putting it out there, and I that part I really admire. You know?
Thank you.
Like sometimes the message, like I get it, sometimes I don't, and it's none of my business to judge. But what I admire is you do it, right? It's you put yourself in a vulnerable, potentially position for people to judge you. I mean, like for me, I don't do that, right? I post funny shit on Facebook because I know people love it or not. But at most is I get the best is I get a laugh, right? The worst is like, oh, that's boring, right? But when you put your personal opinion out there, I think it's courageous in a way. But you're not doing it for that reason. You're not doing it for being courageous. You're doing it to find your voice, to express yourself. And I think that's awesome.
Oh, thank you.
I think that's great. Yeah. And yeah, keep doing it. I love it.
Yeah, thank you.
And I do it in the form of podcast.
Right.
But, you know, so I get it.
So going back to alignment, how do you find your internal alignment for yourself? How do you know when you're off center or grounded and operating from that neutral space?
What is a neutral space?
Neutral space would be a healthy expression of masculine, healthy expression of feminine within you.
You know, I'm trying to find that balance every day. You know, it's just like exercise. If I exercise for 1.5 hours every day, it's awesome. But I want to do more sometimes. And I want to do 2.5 hours of different activities. But if I do that and I sacrifice time with my family, or I become too sore, or I get injured, and I won't be able to do what I want to do the next day, right? So I think every second I'm looking for that balance, but at the same time, sometimes I have to ignore like how I feel at that moment and just do it anyway. Like a few weeks ago, I was doing like martial arts, and I broke the middle toe, and I went to see a doctor, and doctor said, it is you broke your bone the best way you could, and basically there's nothing we can do. You just have to rest, right? And I have martial art the next day, right? So I wanted to give up. I want to say, okay, I want to take a month off, and rest, right? But I went. I just told everyone, hey, I broke a toe, and I still want to work out with you guys. Just, be mindful. Don't step on my toe too hard, And I still did my workout that day. So I ignored like how I really felt, and I handled it. And I'm glad I did it. I didn't give up. I continued, and I really, that toe hasn't really bothered me, after that day. So what I rely on to find that balance is I have set of daily disciplines that I do, so from say waking up at a certain time, going to bed, so waking up
let's go into the details.
Okay, so these are the things I do like on a daily basis, right? And they almost fill my day, right? So, and it takes care of different areas that I focus on, and I do them no matter what. And there are days I fucked up, that I don't do what I do, and I don't blame myself too much. I just, okay, I start from day zero again, right? So my daily routines are, I wake up, I step on a scale, so I know how much I weigh, because I want to keep a healthy body weight. And I get on I do a plank, and I do my mantra during my planking. And so there are certain mantras I do during the planking, and I have a longer version of the mantras I do. And
what do those mantras do for you? Or remind you of?
Just have a clear mental picture of what I want to achieve in my life. So around work, around family, around my podcast, around my spirituality, right? So I just read those mantras to remind that, hey, this is the life I want to, this is the man I want to be, right? And these are the specifics that I focus on, so I make sure I don't lose sight of what's important to me, right? And I create that energy, that emotions around me. So when people bump into me, or when I walk into a place, they feel the energy before my arrival, So and it also kind of create like a my own reality for myself. Like, hey, this is where I am. I mean, it's a goal, right? I set up a goal. I mean, how many men live their life without a goal? They just do day in and day out. They don't ever, I mean, I was that man. I don't have a clear self-image of where I want to be, what I want to do, what kind of man I want to be, what kind of family I want to have. And so that those mantras are there to kind of help me align myself with those visions. So after that, I'll do either martial arts or yoga in any given day during weekdays. And then I'll do a podcast every day during weekdays, usually in the afternoon, right before I go home from work. I do my podcast. something I don't like eating, I put it into a blender and I drink it. And I track my macros every day. I track my calories and macros using this awesome app called MyFitnessPal. And I also, let me think, I own the trash cans in my house, right? So I put reminders like how often I clean out the trash, really recycles, and I wipe the trash cans and make sure it's all squeaky clean. So that's part of my weekly routine. And during the weekends, on top of what I mentioned, every day I'll do the ab wheels, just to build my core and push-ups. And during weekends, I'll add taking care of my wife's car. I put diesel in her car every Saturday. Even it can be full, I'll still go to the gas station and I'll do it. It's a ritual. And on a daily basis, I will do something for my family. I make sure I do something for Michelle and or Uriel. So
what's doing something? What does that mean?
Like buy her a little gift, right? Really listen to her. Taking a walk with her, things like that. Buy her ice cream, stuff like that. Just what I realized is before I started doing this, I thought I was a good husband, right? I thought, hey, I'm always taking care of my wife. I'm listening to her. I'm doing all this and that, till I start tracking it, and I realized, oh man, I really just do it twice a week. But my mind is telling me like, hey, you're doing an awesome job. You do it every day. But when I really pay attention to it, I just did it twice a week or 3 times a week. But where I really wanted to be, and to be honest, for different men and husband, maybe 3 times a week is enough, right? But the man I wanted to be is I want to do it every day, because that's important to me. Like our relationship, her happiness, her wellness, my son's well-being, and our family is important to me. So I want to put time into it, just like I put time into work every day. I want to put time into family every day. And I realized, man, I'm really just bullshitting myself. I'm really not doing it. So, but till I track it, and now like, okay, now I know for sure I did something for my family that day. That's special. That's not just a routine. That's just it's just not out of obligation. It is out of care and generosity. So, and basically those things kind of determine who I am, right? It determines me what I do. It governs what I do, who I am for that day. I really don't have much. I really don't have more time to do anything else besides that. But so, and if I just take care of those things, and I earn my own respect at the end of the day. When I go to bed, like, okay, I earn my respect. Of course, if I can do more, hell yeah. If I can go volunteer, I can take care of other men. That's all good. But these are the things that's important to me and that I'll take care of, like on a daily basis or weekly basis. And these are my disciplines.
So I actually have a follow-up question for you. I'm curious to know, how did you come up with those lists of things, tasks, that you have self-selected to be the core of who you are? Because I just shared a little bit of, myself. I used to track all kinds of things, right? And over time I realized that there were trivial things. and ultimately came down to a handful of things that was critical to my well-being. So I'll have similar things that I do every day, but I'm curious to know your process. How did you select those, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 things that you have to, that's your daily discipline, that you have to do it that you must do it every day?
Good question. A lot of those things are the things I've been doing, right? Like drinking the green smoothie. I've been doing it for a year before I start tracking it, right? Some of the things are the things that other men taught me. They said, hey, this has been helping me. Would you like trying to take it on for yourself and see what happens? I'm like, oh yeah, fuck yeah. If it's been working for you, I'll try it. I'll give it 90 days before I judge it or doubt it. I'll give it 90 days and see how that changes me or not changes me, or how does it benefit me or not benefit me. I'll give it 90 days, right? So some of them are like that, and certain things are like, hey, like that's an area I want to improve, so let me do something around it. Let me pick a discipline that I think will help me achieve or better that standards, then I do it. So I think it really all starts from like paying attention to my life, to who I am, to different areas of my life, and I'll pick out the areas where the standards that I'm not happy with. Right? I'm like, okay, I'm too heavy, or I'm too tired all the time. I'm not happy with the standards I hold around my weight, or the food I put in my mouth, or the amount of exercise I put in. I'm not happy with it. That's a low standard, right? Although I might have high standards at work, but that standard is low, right? And I want to improve, and I'm not happy. So, and I'll implement a discipline to see if that can help me. So I started doing I stand on the scale every morning. I drink the green smoothie, and those two things alone improve my health 100%. I went down from 189 to 153 at one point. I'm super happy with that. I didn't do anything crazy. I just do those two things, and I track my calories every day. That's it. So, and I just keep doing those. I mean, one thing I realized last night is I was doing push-up and ab wheels, and I just drank my green smoothie. And my mother-in-law is like, man, your weight is okay. You're skinny. Like, you can stop doing what you do, right? Like, you don't have to keep going, right? And I just responded like, hey mom, like what I realized is like, if like once I started on this path of being healthy and losing weight, is there's no stop. There's no stop. I mean, I just have to keep doing this till the day I die. If I stop doing the green smoothie or weigh myself or all these things, I'll gain 10 pounds right back in a month, like no doubt. I'll gain everything back, and I just realized that, and I just realized I realized that, like this is a important switch that I turn on. That if I want to achieve anything in my life, I have to do it on a daily basis. There's no other way, or at least weekly basis. There's no other way. Because I was brought out in the Chinese kind of culture tradition is you work for that thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Outcome.
Right. Outcome.
Right.
You're after a degree. Right. In junior high is elementary school is all about getting to the right junior high. Right. And junior high is about passing the senior high entrance exam, which will determine if you go to the first tier or second tier high school, which will determine if you can go to the first tier or second tier university, right? So
which would determine,
right, if you can be a doctor or a lawyer or be a
right.
fucking loser.
Right. Which would determine the net worth or whatever, the overall success of one's life.
Which will determine if you can marry a good woman, and which will determine if you'll be ever happy in your miserable life. Right? It is about that. I mean, that's how I was taught. So my mentality has been, okay, I'll sacrifice everything else. I'll sacrifice my health, my having fun, my doing sports. I'll just fucking study. I'll pass that exam, and finally, like, hey, I passed. I had a good grade. Finally, I can get a break. No, you don't get a fucking break because there's another exam coming up. Then I have to compromise what I really want to do, and just go in for that again, and boom, right? But my mentality has been, okay, let's work really hard for a short period of time, or for a year or two, so I can get to a state where I don't have to work, where I'll be happy, where I'll get a ticket to happiness, where I'll get a ticket to happy land, right? And I don't have to do anything, or people think, hey, I'll just do this and that, and I go to heaven and do nothing and enjoy the music and the food and the woman and be happy for eternity. It doesn't work that way, right? It's, and I just realized that. I'm fucking 42. I just realized that, no, it never stops. Once you take on something and you want to have value and you want to have any significance in that, the path you take on, daily grind.
Daily discipline.
Daily discipline.
Enjoy the journey.
Enjoy the journey or not, but someday I enjoy. Like today, I went to martial arts, and a black belt put a leverage on me and dropped me, and I feel a little whiplash on my neck. Right, not too bad. I'm learning how to break a fall on the ground, so it's not too bad. And I went home to kind of stretch myself and took care of myself, all that. But that's not enjoyable. I rather not getting fucking dropped on the floor like that and almost hit my head on the floor. But I earned my respect. I did it anyway, and I'm gonna keep going on a weekly basis. I made a commitment. I want to be a black belt. And it might take 10 years, right? And what people say, the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. But the second best time to plant a tree is right now, right? So I missed the 20 years ago thing. I really wished I took on martial arts when I was 22, but I missed that train. I actually wish I took on martial art when I was 12, but I missed it 30 years ago. But the best time is now. I'm happy, just by taking a martial art for 2 or 3 months now, I believe I can. I'm already better than 70% of the men out there. The stuff that was taught, and it's okay, right? Of course I want to be the top 10%, right? But it will take 10 years. But just 3 months, a lot of time, if you just do something for 3 months, let's say you do podcasts nonstop for 3 months, you already have more episodes than 70% of them. Mm-hmm. You're gonna have more episodes and good material than 70% of the people out there. that want to do podcasts that never got started. That they say, hey, I really want to do podcasts. Like, go. I know so many people want to do podcasts. They never got started.
Yeah.
So just by having 5, you're already better than 70%.
Yeah.
Right? And if you have 50, you're better than 85%. But if you want to be the top 1%, you got to commit yourself for 10 years.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's one of those things that, you know, I meet people before they were this big name brand that everyone knows. 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Just like everyday regular Joes.
Mm-hmm.
But what they did, which is different than what I did, I started 10 things or whatever, and I stopped because there were no market response. They just kept going. 10 years later, here they are.
Yeah.
A name everyone knows.
Yes.
Right? So, and that's the thing. You know, what you said was perfect. I wish that I kept going 10 years ago. I wish that I kept going 20 years ago. Right? I was a little bit early for the market. Blah, blah, blah. But nonetheless, here we are. Right? The next best thing is to start today. And one of the things that my friend said so beautifully, Dylan, he said, Joe Rogan episode 1 was that you, or
that's me?
That was you. Yeah. Joe Rogan episode 0, episode 1, episode 100 was terrible. Yeah, and I still remember that. But Joe Rogan 1100 is badass.
It's fucking
recently interviewed Elon Musk.
Yeah.
You know, was able to get Elon Musk to talk about things that he normally doesn't talk about.
Right.
It takes a particular kind of skill to be able to do that, right? It made it look effortless.
Yes.
Right? And what a beautiful skill.
Yeah.
And actually, one other thing that actually came to me in Burning Man, because I was able to walk amongst my heroes and interact with them as regular human beings, it occurred to me, because in my mind, I always thought, like, yeah, they were more talented, they were more gifted, they were whatever, they were more lucky. But now it's just a number in my mind. They put in their 10,000 hours, however many thousand hours. So, same thing as my wife. She's a world-class singer. And I see the journey that she took from last year to this year. It is nothing but sheer number of hours. Like Kobe Bryant. There's a number on his head. You know, I don't know, 60,000 hours or whatever. Right? So if you want to be as good as Kobe Bryant, first and foremost, are you willing to commit 60,000 hours? Right. Then we can talk.
Right.
Right? If you want to be as good as a podcaster to Joe Rogan, first and foremost, are you willing to commit 1,100 hours?
That's right.
Right? Things like that. Or times 3, because he does 3-hour episodes quite a lot, right? So, you know, that to me is a very simple mental model. So I no longer compare my natural ability to this someone that I respect as oh yeah, this person's taller, more handsome, or whatever than I am. Rather, it's this person invested X number of hours, way more than I did.
Right.
Respect.
Right.
Am I willing to catch up?
Yes.
Right. So that's my mental model now.
Discipline.
Yeah, totally, absolutely.
Yeah. So speaking of podcasts, I've been learning from this journey, and I'm breaking 40 episodes this week.
Amazing.
So I like the platform Himalaya a lot because they use gamification to keep you engaged.
So you uploaded 40 already?
Yeah, I uploaded about 35. A few I'm still kind of holding on to them for different reasons.
Yeah.
But what happened was...
let's go over there under the sun.
You're cold?
A little bit, yeah.
You want the thing?
Oh, you have it? Yeah, thanks.
Am I bothering you a little bit? service by providing.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that. Excellent mothering.
Thank you. Or we can go over there if you want.
Yeah, let's go over there.
You wanna press? Keep going. You can edit this out.
Let's start over. Okay, great.
So they're using gamification to keep all the hosts engaged. So they give you different matrix. Say, hey, you are, in this category, say relationships, you are above, say, 70%, of the people that's doing this. So when I told you that, hey, when I uploaded about 20 episodes, I'm already above 70% of the people that registered, and most of them did nothing, right? A lot of them want to become podcasters, or they want to give talks to people. They never done anything. And think about the people that didn't even start an account,
right?
And they wanted to do this. There's more out there, and so I just keep doing it. And when I had about 25 episodes, I'm already at 80%, right? So it's interesting. So they tell you, okay, these are the 10 people above you and 10 people behind you in terms of score. So I go in and I listen to their materials. So at 80%, I encounter a few people. They have excellent content. They're professional consultant or therapist, and they know their stuff, and they give really good interviews or monologue or whatever. But they stopped. They don't do it on a consistent basis, and a week later I'm at 90%, and they're still there, right? And at 90%, what I learned is very interesting. Is everyone, because Himalaya is an interesting platform. It's a combination of podcasting and audibles.
What's audible?
Audibles, like audibles, book reading. So some people there, they just read books to earn their points. Okay, it's not wrong, right? Because people want to listen to an article and don't want to have time to read it. They want to listen to it when they're on their way to work. They listen to.
There's a market for that,
right?
Yeah.
So a lot of people at 90%. So they're, we're all looking at 100%, like 99%. So there's only 9% of people doing podcasts in front of us. But I found a lot of these people, they just read stuff. They read articles. They read a book that's outdated. There's no
copyright.
Yeah. And that's how they get their scores. And that gave me a lot of confidence, right? Because I'm among all that. I'm the really only one giving my own original thought and contents out there. So. And I also run into people who has excellent content. They have maybe 100 episodes, but the last time they upload this was 2016.
Oh wow!
So they gave up. Right? Imagine if they have kept going for the last 2 years, they can easily hit 500 episodes, and they will be right up there. So what I keep telling myself is, don't judge myself. I actually don't even listen to my own podcast too much, and I don't judge myself. I just keep going, and I set a goal. I'm gonna hit 100 before I even listen to myself. Or judge myself, or try to improve myself, or add intros or outro music, you know. Or add an introduction at the beginning, like a fancy intro. I don't even think about that. I just say, I'll keep going till I hit 100, and I'll see what I want to do with it. So
I love that.
Yeah.
That's inspiring, and thanks for that. That's an actionable tactic, and my goal is to do the same. 100 episodes. That's what I'm committing to, and as you said. I think the last time we chatted, even if no one listens to it, which I doubt, right? But even if no one listens to it, I still had a great conversation with some of my dearest friends, right?
Yes.
And had, to me, meaningful conversations.
Yes.
One of the things that is meaningful for me, I realize that if I had a meaningful conversation with our employees, it's a great day. If I don't, if I just kind of get into my emails, whatever, it's a very, very different day, right? So one of my rituals is to engage with one of our employees once a day, and that actually helps me to know that I interacted with a human being and made a difference for them.
What do you talk to them about?
Just checking in. How are you? What's happening? And then that's the beginning. And we get into whether or not they feel like they can be successful at our company, whether or not they see opportunities for growth for themselves as well as for the company, whether or not they see any blind spots that we don't see that we're not actively working on. So these are all great openings to any conversation. Can go a variety of different ways. And then we can get into some philosophical conversation about what does it mean to be successful. Why does that particular thing matters to you? Again, just following the thread that way. So that's one of the things that I do that makes my life meaningful every day. There are other things, so I'll share, since we're on the topic of rituals. What I do, the first thing I wake up, I drink some water with a little salt in it, right? And then right away I go and jump into my sauna. I go in there for a good about 20 minutes or so, and after that I take a little hape, right, as a way to put myself in uncomfortable physical sensations. Then I meditate. I sit in front of my altar and then look at. I have a visual representation of, similar to your mantra, visual representation of the kind of person that I stand for, my goals, my vision for myself. And I meditate on a question. Usually it's something along the line of, what would make me come alive today, or some variation of that, right? What makes me come alive, or some philosophical questions that helps me answer some questions, or the actions to take, the next action to take in my life. Then I set my intention for the rest of the day, right? What are some special actions I can take on that I haven't thought about, or that would emerge from my meditation. Then I start my day. And then I go work out and all these other things. A lot of things I realize that I know to do, but I have forgotten to do. Right? Like working out every day. Like having a smoothie every day. Like having a regular meal every day. I think as a result of one may say negligence, I've lost 10 pounds in the last 30 days, and my trainer at my office reminds me that I haven't been to the gym for a month. Well, it was less reminding, more making fun, right? Which is great, which works for me. Right. He knows what he needs to do to get me poke at me, right, to get me to action. So so I'm really happy that I'm in an environment where they're supportive of being the best version of myself, like going to the gym, like eating in a particular way, right? To really embody, to exemplify what it means to be a healthy masculine, coming back to full circle to the beginning of this conversation. Yeah, and then my intention for this particular podcast, I want to make sure to always tease out some tactical, actionable things that people can take on. Because I think it's one thing to share inspiration, right? Whatever I got from Burning Man, and that may be great, all right? Some people may be moved by the beautiful words that we say, the imageries, the stories we tell. But ultimately, for it to be useful, I wanted to give them tactical things that they can try on themselves, right? Maybe 100 things, and if they try one thing, then great. If they try 100 things, great. So that way they can see for themselves whether or not such tactic, discipline would be useful for them.
Agree.
Yeah.
And I have a question regarding what you mentioned. You said you used to track a lot of things. How is that different than your daily rituals or disciplines at this point?
Yeah. So my philosophy is I treat my life as a big experiment. So how do I answer this question? So back then I had a lot of different experiments happening at the same time. I self-experiment, right? A lot of different experiments. I tried the smoothies or different workouts or biohack and the way I sleep or whatever. And then I realized at some point that a lot of it was marginal incremental benefits to my overall quality of life. So then I started to trim actively. So the things that I keep today are the ones that if I remove them, I feel a significant drop in my quality of life, a significant drop in how centered, how grounded I am. That, right? Going back to the quadrant, healthy and unhealthy expression, I notice significantly I become more irritable if I don't sleep well, if I don't eat well, if I don't move, if I don't meditate, if I don't have a conversation with an employee and make a difference with them, if I don't speak to my wife or contribute or do something for my wife that day, and I would. Oh, actually, she will let me know.
It's usually it's too late.
Yeah, she will let me know that that something was missing, right? So things like that. So I started to be more and more aware of like what are the things that's actually moving the needle significantly, right? And these days I stopped to actively experiment with new things, and more on doing the fundamental things. Right, eating well, like the whole alignment of body, mind, heart, and spirit.
Yeah.
And really use that as a mental model in my own internal alignment. Do what works, right? If I do those fundamental things, I don't really need to play with other marginal, experimental things. So that's kind of how I simmer down to the core 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 things that I do.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the way to go. I'm kind of bummed. I just kind of learned that. I mean, I knew, but I never execute to this level till very recently.
Yeah.
And I'm really starting to see the quality of my life starting to change.
Yeah.
I'm starting to change.
Yeah.
I show up at work differently, have a different posture,
Yeah.
Confidence level, and it's great. And this is so simple, right? Like you said, like a tactical thing anyone can do, but how many men is willing to put in the time to, say, for 60 days to try on a new ritual or a discipline? Let's say try it out for 60 days. How many men run out of patience in 5 days or 3 and say, oh, that's not working for me, that's done nothing for me, or some men were starting to see result and start sabotaging themselves, like, oh man, no, we have this weight loss thing we're all, like me and my buddies were all doing, basically we just all weigh ourselves, and everyone is at different level in their life. We have a guy who last year competed in his first bodybuilding competition and got number 2.
Wow.
And the reason that he got number 2 was he didn't know how to do the freestyle routine at the end. He had no idea that he needed to do that. The judge was telling him at the end, it's like, if you knew how to do just a little bit of that, you'll be number 1. Because you're standing up like an idiot, we couldn't give it to you, right? But he's like muscle composition and everything is top notch, right? And he doesn't take supplements. He just do it with like natural, healthy food. And we have man that's like 320 pounds, right? But we all do the same thing. We weigh ourselves and we track our macros. And I've invited a couple friends to join the thing because they can definitely use the group motivation and accountability. And some men will let that shape them and get benefit. And some men will give up very fast in 3 days with ridiculous reason. Right? So we all agree to say pay $50 monthly, and the winner will take it all, right? And like one man thought, that not all of the money is going to the winner. The person who is kind of organizing it, he's dipping his hand in the pot. He's like paying himself with $50 or something, right? Well, it's like,
out of principle, he quit.
Right, out of principle, out of integrity, he quit, right? And I can tell you, he is still fucking 320 pounds. And the other man who joined when he was 280, and that man actually had discipline. He's been swimming for a whole year. He's been tracking his carb intake, but he kind of got stuck. He got stuck around 280. He's been doing his discipline. He never stopped working out, but he got stuck. But since he joined, he's 246 right now. Okay? So what I'm trying to say is there's no secret. There's no fucking secret. It's just you gotta commit to it and don't let the inner monkey to talk you out of it. I told the guy, number one, I don't think that guy is paying himself because he doesn't fucking need to. He's fucking rich. He's well financially. And number two, a lot of men don't actually pay the $50, right? They join the thing, but they don't pay. And he doesn't go after them and say, hey, you owe me 50, right? Like you. I was like, did you pay? He's like, no, I didn't pay. I was like, well, your name is fucking on there, right? And I mean, a lot of men are like you. They don't pay, but they're still in the pot, right? I do. I pay, right? That's why the winner didn't get everything, right? And then say, and number three, if he's paying himself, so what?
Right.
If he paying himself like $50 for organizing this, I mean, he has to gather all the data, put it into an Excel sheet and track and communicate and do all that. Like, okay, $50, so what?
Well deserved.
Well deserved.
Yeah.
And what, if you want, you can organize your own thing, right? But you don't, because you're lazy fuck, right? And why do you let that stop you? If you are gonna get a benefit.
Yeah.
I know doctors out there are selling a weight loss program for $5,000 a month.
Right.
Easy.
Right.
And it doesn't work.
Right.
Right? Because when you go to a doctor and you want to lose weight, well, either you're really in a dire medical condition that you need immediate help, right? Or you don't know what to do, or you're looking for that one magic pill to help you, like by eating it, all of a sudden your metabolic changes or your behavior change or something change, and now you lose weight without effort.
Right.
But
what they say in the infomercials, you make money while you sleep, or you lose your pounds while you sleep.
Right. Wow.
What a dream.
What a dream. I want that. right? And it doesn't work. It doesn't work that way. I mean, there are consequences if you lose weight in your sleep. There's
side effects, right?
There's side effects.
Yeah.
You know, you get depressed, or you get intestinal problem, or you
shit yourself.
You shit yourself, or you don't shit for 20 days.
Yeah.
You know, anything. I mean, but anyway, right? So that's what I'm saying. It's so easy. The tactic is so easy. And I think the important thing is, how do you get a man into action to start to commit to do 60 days? It's so simple. 60 days. I mean, you can do 60 days in a year. Meaning you can try. If you just do one thing at a time, you do one ritual at a time, you can try 6 different rituals a year, which can all potentially transform a man's life, right? If you choose wisely, right? And it's not happening. And
actually, on that note, interesting point about wisely, right? How do you know the discipline that you take on is a wise choice or a foolish choice?
I think at the end of the 60 day, you ask that question.
So for you is
don't ask.
If someone that you trust recommend to you, or you
come up with yourself,
you come up with yourself or something, right? And then you do that as an experiment. You do that without emotion,
right?
Without judgment. Yeah. And then you just do it, and then you judge it after 60 days, after the program is due.
Right. So I have a bad one. So I tried many things. A good one would be, I read this book of like Never Complain Again, and it comes with like a purple wristband, right? And it's the purpose of the wristband is to make you pay attention. So the book says, okay, take on this challenge of no complaining for 30 days consecutively, right? And I put it on, I'm like, oh man, this is easy. This is the stupidest thing I ever do. That's a complaint, right? And it's like, okay, gotta switch hands. So I switched the rubber band from right to left and left right, day in and day out. And on day one, I realized I complain easily 20 times a day. Okay.
In an obvious way.
Right. Obvious that I catch myself, right? And I also realized that people use complaining as a social tool to social with each other, right? So when we get into a social events, like I started to realize how much people complain, to a point like I can't go hang out with my friends, because if I'm not, I was like, how come you're not complaining? It's almost like you're not saying anything. I'm like, yeah, because if I say anything, if I join this conversation, I'll be complaining with you guys. I'm just like sitting on the sidelines, listening to people complain about their lives, right? All the problems, and men and women, you know, and it's not bad, you know, and it's typically hard when I work with a customer, because you want to be talking about the same bad thing. You know, that would be an easy way to build relationships.
It's an easy way to be relatable.
Right, exactly.
It's an easy way to be, oh, you're human too.
Right. So I have to find ways to relate to them without complaining, which is I have to be creative and cautious, right? But I love that one, okay? So then when I completed that one, it took me a whole year to get to 29 days. On day 29, I knew I was gonna get there. I was with the customer, and I was almost having an out of body experience. I can almost like floating in the air, and I caught myself, and I see myself saying, yeah, I hate traveling when it's holidays. And I was like, no, don't say that. And I was like having an out of body experience. I was like, I said it. I was like, oh no, tomorrow is day 30. I am finally completing with this thing.
Start over.
And I have to start over.
Oh my god.
And at a year or year and a half, I just have to complete with it. I'm like, I have to get done with this. Like I see the point.
You learn your lesson.
I'm a much better person, and I learned a lot of valuable lessons, but I just cannot deal with it anymore. I just want to fucking complain, And
so now you complain consciously.
Yes, I'm having a healthy complaining attitude. Healthy, But it's great. It's great. So the next one I came up with is I don't want to be emotional. Right, so, and I was physically pretty fit, during that period. So I was like, okay, if I get emotion, I'll start with like 30 push-up, right? And if that day I get emotional even just once, I'll add 5 push-up to it, right?
So every day is 30 push-ups,
right.
And then if you are emotional once, you add 5 push-ups to it.
Right. No, if I'm not getting emotional, no push-up.
Okay.
Okay. If I get emotional, say today's day 1, I got emotional.
Yeah.
30 push-up.
Okay.
Tomorrow, day 2, got emotional, 35 push-up.
I see.
Okay. And
so 5 is an increment per day.
Increment per day.
I got it. Okay.
So by the 3rd week, I was doing like 95 push-ups. So I'm emotional and I'm physically tired. And it's like a double whammy. And I was like, fuck that, I can't do this anymore. I'm tired, I'm physical, I'm hurt every day. I'm like, on average, I'm doing like 8, I'm just, I can't do it anymore. I gotta be honest with myself. I have to find something else.
You didn't set yourself up for success.
I didn't, and it's just so that was a stupid one, and I ended, not honorably, but I realized it's not a good one.
Right.
Because I was kind of punishing myself for being emotional.
Sure.
And not paying attention to the right elements. I'm just like, okay, let me stop this behavior by punishing myself for being emotional, but it's really not a good way to address that standards, right? And so I have done some good ones and bad ones, and that's a bad one, But
so I want to share actually a bad one that I did. So, all right, so let's talk about how our brain works, right? We have the lizard brain, we have the midbrain, and we have the cerebral cortex, right? So lizard brain is, evolved from the lizards, and then midbrain.
Fight or flight.
Right, fight or flight. Right. So midbrain is our emotional, right? The region that controls our emotions, right? And then cerebral cortex is our cognitive behavior, and we can kind of think logically and articulate and linguistic ability and everything. All right, so our midbrain, our lizard brain, don't understand language, right? What it understands is pleasure or pain. So one of the instruments that you can use to change your own behavior by communicating to your midbrain or lizard brain is by pain or pleasure. So a way to do that is simply wear a rubber band, right? You can snap yourself to communicate to your midbrain, lizard brain, hey, don't do that. Pain. A more sophisticated device is electrical shocks, right? There's a watch that you can buy called Pevlock, and you can shock yourself for doing things that you're not supposed to do. So I started to shock myself to do, I can't remember exactly behavior I was trying to change. I think it was checking my emails incessantly or something like that. So I couldn't complete the I believe it was for like a good 30 days or something, because by the end of the day I was just like constantly zapping myself. or snapping myself, and we're just becoming more and more painful. I started to have like bruises all over, and I was like, But in theory, it should really work. Right? I think the use case, what I was trying to do, wasn't useful, but in theory, it should work for something else. So I might go back to that one day. But
did you get your money back from that device?
I think I did. Yeah, I'm not sure. I think I did. Yeah.
Send it to a friend you don't like as a birthday gift.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Hey,
here's a Pavlok watch.
Yeah. This is how you show self-love.
I think the original design was that you can zap someone else.
Mm-hmm.
So your spouse or your friend can zap you.
Or your people reports to you at work.
Right, something like that. Yeah.
Like,
so you can zap them.
Like they're 1 minute late. Turn in the report. Zap them.
Right, exactly.
Zap the motherfucker.
Yeah.
But speaking of that, I think it's I'm thinking about my son again and myself is since you mentioned the lizard brain and the limbic
Mm-hmm.
limbic brain and the cortex, and what I learned is how you can. So when little child is throwing a tantrum, they're in their lizard or emotional brain.
Right, fight or flight, right.
And they're just fight or flight, and they just can't get out of that. They're kind of trapped there, right? Especially their frontal cortex is not really developed here until they're like 25, 30 something. So they easily get trapped in there and they don't know what to do. So on a logical level, like when I observe my son, is like when he gets emotional, it's actually pretty scary because he doesn't know how to get out, right? It's like the first month when we're feeding the baby, the way they cry, it's fear. Because imagine you can't move, you're in the dark, you're hungry, and it's very intense. And you don't know what to do. You don't know, like it's life and death for you, right? It feels like life and death, and you don't have the sense of security that someone's gonna take care of you yet. So that's a very scary place to be. Very scary. So, and since they don't have the trust yet, they will scream and they cry like life and death for little babies. Same thing when they feel anger and frustration. They don't know what to do. It's also very scary for them. Let's say, what is this? Why am I? They don't even think about this. Like they're just like, what the hell is this feeling? What the hell is this emotion? And they're totally in that lizard brain at that moment. And the way you help them is you help them label that emotion. So all of a sudden that emotion becomes a thing. It's like, oh, that's frustration. Oh, that's anger. You know, you're feeling angry because I'm not letting you eat food before you wash your hand. You got anger. You know, you got angry. And that's okay. Or you tell him, hey, that's frustration. You're frustrated. You know, repeat after me. I'm frustrated. And they'll feel better just by saying that, because now it becomes a thing. It's not an unknown thing that just happened to them.
Right.
And it's very profound for a little kid. And for myself too. Like now I do that to myself. Like, oh, you're just fucking pissed. Oh, you're frustrated. I tell myself, I'm talking to myself like, you're just pissed. You're just frustrated. You're just, yeah, because that person did that to you, so now you're pissed, and that's totally normal. It's totally okay, and that would help me get out of that a little easier.
Use language as a way to articulate to yourself.
Yeah, but that's how you bridge the three brains together from the limbic system to the cortex. Is that. And that, a lot of time you can help a person get out of that emotional state quicker.
Yeah. So that's why, actually, coming back to what you were saying earlier about Lao Tzu, right? He says, 道可道，非常道, right? So it means if you can say it, then it's not the Tao. But I am of the opinion that yes, that's true. I can't holistically explain a phenomenon, but I can try to describe the various attributes of it as a way to unpack certain phenomenon, whether it be my own emotions or natural phenomenon, or some things that I observe. Something is better than nothing. I can't holistically describe the whole thing, just like how I can't describe Burning Man to someone who's never been, but I can share my perspective or a letter that I've seen that have seemed to capture the essence of Burning Man or a phenomenon or emotion as a way for them to experience what that is. So
totally agree.
Yeah, something's better than nothing. Cool, man. I think that's a pretty good place to wrap this conversation, right? For episode 1. And obviously,
Let's go get pizza.
Let's go get pizza. Yeah, this is a pretty good place to wrap. And obviously, this is a ongoing inquiry, so we won't end here. But I think this would be a good place to wrap. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Bye.